Soon I will be done with troubles of this world, troubles of this world, troubles of this world. Soon I will be done with troubles of this world. I'm going home to live with God.
I think we're going to start. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Edward Gonzales Tennant. I'm currently the president of the Cedar Key Historical Society. I'm also, I do other things like archaeology. Some of you may know, right, that I've done some archaeological work in Rosewood and elsewhere. We have huge interest in what we're doing tonight, right, which is sort of, I mean, for lack of a better word, really kind of reclaiming, or at least, I don't know, re-unveiling, remembering the African American presence, contribution, and heritage of the Cedar Keys, right? So that's why we're here. So obviously, a lot of people are in support of that. We kind of had to divide ourselves between these two rooms. For those of you who are unaware of what I've been doing, I've sort of been poking around parts of Levy County for the past 15 or 16 years. First as a PhD student at the University of Florida, and now, right, I teach at the University of Central Florida. And looking at Rosewood, Sumner, now I'm looking more and more at the Black history here in Cedar Key. It's a fascinating history. Some people know parts of it, but we're still unveiling huge parts of it, right? So still discovering parts of it. And so several years ago, right, when Anna Hodges first reached out to me to serve on the board, first I was honored, but I was also really, I was concerned, right? Because I think some of us know, right, that African American history is not always centered in the ways it should be in many parts of Florida. And obviously here in Levy County, that includes both histories we should celebrate, but histories we also need to commemorate and learn from, right? And so, I was very honest with Anna, saying, look, the work I do is controversial for some people. And Anna put all of my concerns aside and said, look, there's a lot of people in Cedar Key who want exactly this sort of thing to take place. And tonight, right, is really a testament to that fact, right? And not just in Cedar Key, but all of us who have connections to Cedar Key, Levy County, and really Florida in general. But this would not be possible without a number of things. First of all, we do have funding from Florida Humanities, so we should probably clap for that. That's a gracious grant from them, paid for the physical stuff, right, the actual materials. Everything else, from building it, designing it, installing it, was all volunteer, right? The historical research that goes into this is volunteer. The programming that goes into the interactive portion, volunteer, everything, right? So I should thank Diana Gonzales Tennant, she's back there by the camera. Obviously, many of you already know Mike and Anna Hodges. Those are our other volunteers. I mean, Anna works here, but she goes above and beyond constantly, right? And so this would not exist without, right, that sort of community commitment, but also just straight up volunteer labor. Right? So the exhibit itself, we'll unveil it later. It has displays, right? It talks about African American history here in Cedar Key. There's an interactive component. There's also, many of you picked up these rack cards, right? So these are basically we've got 20,000 of them. We're going to make sure that this history is remembered for a long time, right? We're going to hand those out. They're free for anybody who wants them. We're handing them out across Cedar Key, Levy County, and beyond. So obviously we're here to celebrate Cedar Key's African American heritage, which, I'm an academic, I'm a researcher, I do those things. I'm going to confess, right? When I first started doing work in Levy County, I focused on Rosewood, right? There's a political commitment there for me. This was a history I felt needed to be told. It was a history I thought archaeology could reveal some new truths about, right? I thought that was something I could help contribute to. for a long time, I, like a lot of people, assumed with the 1923 event, the violent displacement of Rosewood's black community, that basically this part of Levy County kind of emptied out its African American community, right? Basically, those events drove those communities to leave. It turns out nothing could be farther from the truth, right? A vibrant African American community persisted in Cedar Key for generations, right? And so, in some ways, that's what this is about, is understanding that, but also framing it within a much deeper history, right? I think many people are aware, but if you're not, now you will be, right? African Americans, or at least peoples of African descent, have been a part of Florida's history from the first day European explorers showed up on these lands, right? Peoples, free and enslaved peoples of African descent, have been here since the 1600s, and they formed a vital component, right? After many Spanish and later other European explorers came and went, those individuals stayed. They made inroads with indigenous communities. Those inroads developed into huge communities themselves, maroon communities, right? So places where you had indigenous peoples living with, intermarrying, and producing families with peoples of African descent, right? That's a history that I think Florida is still only starting to understand. That pushes through, by the time we get to the 1800s here in the Cedar Keys, we have African Americans out at Seniote, right at the beginning, right? They persist through the Civil War. We have African American soldiers who join, right, the Northern forces. They're stationed here or just outside of Cedar Key. During Reconstruction, the 11 or so years after the Civil War, we have African Americans. Some of the earliest African Americans likely elected to public office right here in Cedar Key, from mayors to aldermen and so forth, right? Then into the 20th century, the removal of a lot of African American rights in the period we call Jim Crow. We still see African Americans prospering in places like Cedar Key. They persist until, in fact, I've been talking with people who remember growing up in Cedar Key and remember interacting with African American families who lived here, dozens of them as late as the 50s or 60s. So there's still so much to reveal or explore, or for a lot of us who are maybe not members of these communities, right, just to be exposed to and understand. And our next probably big upcoming project, right, is a ground penetrating radar and full mapping project of the Cedar Key Cemetery, which you'll see reflected on the exhibit, includes an African American burial ground, an area of that cemetery largely consisting of unmarked graves, right? Which is not uncommon for historical cemeteries in general, but also much more common for historical black cemeteries, of course. And so mapping all the marked graves, right? This is a full documentation of the entire cemetery and a ground penetrating radar to locate unmarked burials. There's no digging, there's no, right? I've never dug up a grave, I have no interest in doing so. I know that happens, and I know there are reasons sometimes for that, but it's not something we're interested in. So if there are rumors about people like, you're gonna go disturb burial, that's not what we're doing, right? We want an accurate accounting of what's there, so we can do our best to help preserve and protect it for the future. And then I'll end with this, right? So our most recent grant, besides this one, another state-funded grant, allowed us to do things like map storm surge threats in Cedar Key, but also convey the history of Cedar Key and threats like that via a complete virtual reconstruction of Cedar Key as it existed in 1920. All of those things are available on our website, so I'll end with that plug. And go to the website. If you're not a member, join. I think we're all members here, but enjoy that. It's a pretty cool resource, I think. And thank you for coming out. And sorry we don't have more room. And now it's Carolyn.
Thank you very much. And I am so happy and so proud to be standing here in Cedar Key has been one of my very favorite places even when I was a little girl. I would sneak up and get in the back of my grandfather's car and sleep there because I knew he was coming to Cedar Key to get oysters and to fish. And I had another experience. I got married, went to Okinawa. I wasn't very happy over there. I wanted to come back home. So I swore that if I was a mermaid, I'd swim and sit on the bank in Cedar Key. So today is a wonderful day that Black people are being recognized for the works that they have done. And I was talking about the Masons one day. I had a white lady, she said, "Oh, we didn't know you all had those." Oh yes, we had Masons. They were good Masons because they took care of the old people. They buried the dead. There wasn't much insurance, but they took care of a lot of things. And my grandfather was a Mason. And that's a picture of my grandfather with the Mason symbol there. And in Otter Creek, I lived with my mom. But at first they lived in Elsie. So they had the Scots. They had a well. They had the crank where you had to pull, turn the little crank and get the water. I'd always peek over in there and throw stuff in there. Just wonder if I didn't fall in there. But anyway, I didn't. They moved from Elsie, and then they moved to Otter Creek. So there in Otter Creek, we would run down the road. And then there was a family around the corner, and it was this man that I would see. He would walk real straight-like and sturdy, and he was kind of quiet, but he always took time to speak to us. And his name was Mr. Fulton Strong. There was a school in Otter Creek, Fulton Strong Elementary. I had sisters that were in Otter Creek, little sisters and brothers. I loved them so much until I just had to go down there. My sister Marcia said, "I don't know why you like to go down there in them sticks. I can't stand it down there," but I loved it. So around the corner, there's Mrs. McNeil. Then there was the children. I would like to introduce you to a family that came, two brothers, came to Levy County as slaves. After the railroad was built, they were freed. So I would like for you to meet Mr. Fulton Strong, and then their people came here, the two brothers, as slaves and worked on the railroad until it was completed and they received their freedom. Go ahead, would you introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Albert Fuller. I've been a resident back in Levy County for about 31 years. I served as County Extension Director here for about 28 years. So it's great to be back in Levy County, and now I live here as a retired person after working for the University of Florida for about 40 years.
My name is Brian Dempsey, and I currently live in Ocala, Florida. My grandmother was Edith McNeil, and we spent all of our summers in Otter Creek. And I remember as a kid, my grandfather, which is Merrill McNeil, he used to come over here and cut hair over here in Cedar Key. And we would spend hours and hours, because after he would cut hair, we would always fish. Every afternoon we would fish here and take fish home. Cedar Key was always a place that when we came down, we could enjoy ourselves fishing, get oysters, and it was just always relaxing here. And my grandparents lived in Otter Creek till they passed, and it is just such a nice event for Cedar Key to host this event. And we were always taught that there's only one people. There's no black, no white, we're all one people. And an event like today shows that. So, thank you.
My name is Leon Fuller. Fulton Strong was my grandfather. Gladys Strong Fuller was my mother, and it's always good to come back to Cedar Key. I remember coming here as a small boy to purchase fish. I remember wooden docks, the wooden roads, the wooden bridges. They were very rickety back then, and I was always worried about, are we going to fall through? But I remember this community very well, and it's always a pleasure to be back here. All right.
My name is Gregory Black, and I'm from the Rosewood Heritage Foundation. I'm just glad to be here. I'm a retired Coast Guard serviceman. I did 20 years in the service. I'm just like Alex Haley, but undercover. And you know, like, I didn't know being little that I was gonna be important for my family's, the Rosewood family in Levy County. But it's just amazing that striving through, then knowing how they kept the secret from one another. And when it finally came out, I still didn't know who I was. But dreaming like I was on a 210-foot ship, I realized how the slaves was, how they got booted around and stuff like that, you know? But when it comes down to having a war, everybody on our ship come together. We didn't care what color you was.
Yes.
We had out there on that ship, one ship got to survive. Everybody got to survive to come back home. And that's what this is all about. Being together here is black and white. This is how we should be. You know, reunited and held, victorious.
Well, we have learned quite a lot. But like he said, we are not just separated one here, one way over here. We all breathe the same air. We all breathe blood. We all have a heart. So the thing is, and God sends us angels. Sometimes you get in a fix and you don't know what to do. Somebody will come by, and maybe you might be trying to walk out in the road, somebody say, hello, and you'll jump back. That angel saved your life. When you need a friend sometime, maybe somebody just walk by and say, good morning. You don't care whether they're black or white, but you just need to hear a voice. So with me, I'm a little busybody. I kind of ease around to try to get things done. And like my grandmother said sometimes, she said, well, it's not good to tell everything you know, but sometimes I won't even wink at you if the sheriff coming. So you know you better be on your best behavior at all times. Yes, but back to the book. This is Mr. Fulton Strong and Miss Amy here. And this is my mother's house that was in Otter Creek. And we used to go down at a place called Cabbage Down, and they had some real old cabbage houses down there. We'd love to go play. And I'm not going to tell you about those cigarettes they stole and smoked. And this is Mr. Fulton Strong's house. It's kind of hidden in the bushes. It's still there. It's leaning, but it's still there. And this is the old church that stood beside my mom's house. And we used to go to that church when I was little. And boy, could the old people sing. And I can't sing. I can write, and I can paint, and I can cook, but I can't sing. But I've always loved to hear the old people line a hymn. Oh, that is wonderful. It is. And I had one night white ladies to tell me, because in our community, we had the prayer band when I was younger. And this white lady, she lived uptown, and we would have prayer band on South Chiefler. And the ladies would sing, And she told me she was much older. She said, when I was a girl, I just wished I could sing like those ladies did. Say, I just hold my head out the window at night and listen to the beautiful singing. And I can remember when they used to go around and have prayer band to each other's house. And it was the singing, the people would get together. Church was the place to be. Because we had to go to church. You couldn't go anywhere else, and then we began to like it. But a friend of mine had a friend that knew how to play the organ. We would go back in a room sometime, and he would play Green Onion. But I wouldn't in yes. But growing up in Levy County, for me, has been, well, it's home. And I've done all that I can is to bring a positive light to Levy County. I have spoken in prisons about Levy County. I was honored as for Women's Month. I was sent for, the invitation came, and I went. I have been to colleges, and I have been to schools. So I try to do the very best that I can, even though we have rosewood, yes we do. But the thing about it is, none of us here did anything, but all of us here must do something to make it better. Because no matter what, there are protective lies, and there's no one here to really investigate. So all we can do, love, respect each other, and do the very best that we can. So my grandfather said, don't be like a knot on a log, just sit there and do nothing. Do something, make your mark, make your mark. So I thought that he said, just make an X. So here I am, I will do the best I can, wherever, however I can. And here's Anna.
Thank you, Anna. We've already hugged today, so what we're having to do, we have an overflow in the other building, and so what we're doing, instead of having you guys move as if you were at a concert and there were bands on two different stages, we're gonna have the stars move from one area to the other. And you guys can remain seated, and then I'm going to escort you over.
All right,
Okay, good job, Mom.
Now is the time that we unveil the museum exhibit.
I will be done with troubles of this world. Troubles of this world. Troubles of this world. Soon I will be done with troubles of this world. I'm going home to live with God. No more, no more weeping and waiting. No more, no more weeping and waiting. I said no more, no more weeping and waiting. I'm going home to live with God. I want to meet King Jesus. Said I want to meet King Jesus. Said I want to meet King Jesus. I'm going home to live with God. No more crying at midnight. No more crying at midnight. I said no more crying at midnight. I'm going home to live with God. Soon I will be done with troubles of this world. Troubles of this world. Troubles of this world. Soon I will be done with troubles of this world. I'm going home to live with God. I'm going home, I'm going home, I'm going home to meet King Jesus. I'm going home, I'm going home, I'm going home to meet King Jesus. I'm going home, no more crying there. I'm going home to meet King Jesus. I'm going home, no more crying there. I'm going home to meet King Jesus. I'm going home, 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 I'm going home. Oh, soon I will be done with troubles of this world. Troubles of this world. Troubles of this world. Soon I will be done with troubles of this world.
Thank you for watching. If you would like to see more videos like this, please subscribe to the Cedar Key History channel on YouTube and visit our website, cedarkeyhistory.org.